Welcome to the Eclipse Horror Stories. Please like and subscribe before diving into the haunted highway. I never believed in haunted roads. Ghost stories, sure, they were fun around campfires. But a stretch of asphalt? That just sounded like small-town folklore. At least, that's what I thought before I took a wrong turn one night and ended up on Clinton Road. It was late, close to midnight, and I was driving back from visiting a friend in New Jersey. My GPS froze, the screen blanking out before it threw me down a detour. I didn't think much of it. Roads were roads, and all I wanted was to shave 20 minutes off my trip home. But when I saw the crooked green sign, Clinton Road, something inside me tightened. The forest pressed close on both sides. Tall trees leaned in, their branches forming a tunnel that my headlights could barely cut through. No streetlights, no houses, just black woods and the narrow strip of cracked pavement winding ahead. I told myself it was fine. Creepy, sure, but just a road. Then the static started. The radio, which had been silent the whole trip, fizzed suddenly to life. At first it was just white noise, then a low murmur, like voices whispering through static. I twisted the knob, but no matter what station I turned to, the same murmur followed. That's when I saw it, the bridge. An old stone bridge hunched over a narrow creek, its guardrails broken, the concrete cracked with age. I slowed, headlights sliding across the worn surface. Stories I'd half heard before clicked into my mind. People said if you stopped on this bridge and tossed a coin, ghost children would throw it back. I laughed nervously, telling myself I wouldn't fall for it. But something, curiosity, fear, I don't know, made me stop the car. I rolled down the window, dug a coin out of the cup holder, and flicked it into the dark water below. The sound of the splash echoed longer than it should have. Too long. For a moment, nothing. Just silence. Then plink. Something small and cold bounced onto the hood of my car. My eyes darted down. A coin. The same one. My chest locked tight. I hadn't imagined it. I knew I hadn't. I grabbed the gear shift, ready to slam the car into drive. But then tiny footsteps padded across the roof. Light, quick, running from back to front. My hands froze. I couldn't see anything in the mirrors. Just the woods, the empty bridge, the beam of my headlights cutting the dark. But the steps were there, circling, darting. Then a small handprint pressed onto the windshield. Wet, muddy, too small to be anything but a child's. The radio voices rose into laughter, high-pitched, overlapping, echoing through the cabin. I floored it. Tires screamed as I shot off the bridge, tearing down Clinton Road. My heart slammed so hard I thought my chest might split. The laughter faded, replaced by a heavy silence, like the woods themselves were holding their breath. Then something darted across the road. It wasn't a deer. Too fast, too thin, too wrong. Pale skin, bent limbs, eyes like burning coals. It dropped on all fours in front of the car, hissing, before it shot back into the trees. My headlights caught its back just long enough to see the skin wasn't smooth. It was crawling, alive with something under it. I gripped the wheel, knuckles white, swearing out loud. My mind begged me to turn around, but some instinct told me there was no way back. The forest grew darker. The road narrowed. That's when I saw the lights ahead. At first, I thought they were headlights, maybe another car, thank God, another person. But as I got closer, I saw they weren't headlights at all. They were candles. Dozens of them, lining the road in perfect rows. Shadows moved between them, hooded figures circling in the glow. I slowed, my chest twisting with dread. The candles stretched across the road in a pattern, a circle, blocking the way forward. In the center stood something tall, draped in black cloth, its arms too long, its head bowed. The radio whispered one last word, clear this time, in a child's voice. Stay. I slammed the gas. The candles blew out at once, the figures vanishing into the dark. The road ahead swallowed whole. And that's when the real nightmare began. The car shot forward into blackness, my headlights fighting to carve a path through the trees. I didn't dare glance at the mirrors. I was too afraid of what I might see behind me. My grip on the steering wheel hurt, the leather digging into my palms, but I couldn't let go. Not now. For a minute, maybe longer, nothing moved. No footsteps on the roof. No laughter in the static. No pale creature darting across the road. Just the engine whining, my pulse racing, and the trees rushing past. I told myself maybe it was over. Maybe I'd left Clinton Road behind. Then I saw the mile marker. It was the same one I'd passed 20 minutes ago. A rusted sign, tilted sideways. The paint faded but still legible. Mile 13. I slammed the brakes, the tires shrieking against cracked asphalt. My headlights caught the sign dead on. No mistake. I'd already seen this exact one. I'd been driving straight, never once turning, but somehow I'd circled back. The radio came alive again. Static at first, then the sound of children giggling. Not sweet laughter. Sharp, cruel, like kids who enjoyed pulling the wings off flies. "You can't leave," a child's voice sang. I shut the radio off, but the voice didn't stop. Came from the speakers anyway, loud and clear. My chest went cold. I threw the car back into drive and floored it. The road bent ahead, twisting sharper than it should have. I nearly lost control, swerving, but the tires caught the edge and dragged me forward. That's when I saw it, the bridge again. The same one with the broken guardrail, the same creek rushing below. My stomach flipped. It was impossible. I'd left it behind, miles back. Yet here it was, waiting. This time I didn't stop. I pressed harder on the gas, but as I crossed, something hit the back of the car. A thud, like a body landing on the trunk. The whole frame shook. I shouted and jerked the wheel, swerving, but the weight clung tight. Then tiny hands slapped against the rear window. Dozens of them, small, pale, smeared with mud. They pounded, leaving streaks across the glass, each impact louder than the last. I screamed, slamming my fist against the dash. "Get off!" The radio howled back in a child's voice. "Stay with us." I swerved again, harder this time. The car fishtailed, nearly spinning, but the weight vanished. When I glanced in the mirror, the road was empty. Empty, except for one figure standing in the middle of the bridge. A boy. He couldn't have been more than 8, barefoot, soaked like he'd just crawled from the creek. His eyes reflected the headlights, bright and wrong, and he smiled with a mouth full of teeth that were too sharp. He raised his hand, palm out, and in the dim glow I saw something carved into it. Leave. For a second, my whole body wanted to listen, to stop, to turn back, to never set foot on Clinton Road again. But before I could decide, his face twisted, the grin spreading too wide, and the letters on his palm burned, glowing red. Then he was gone. The road bent again, sharper still, and I knew I wasn't in control anymore. Clinton Road was guiding me, pulling me deeper. That's when the woods changed. The trees grew denser, pressing so close they nearly scraped the car. Branches twisted into shapes that looked like arms, faces, reaching. My headlights flickered, shadows running across the pavement like figures darting just out of sight. Something thumped against the roof. Not light footsteps this time. Heavy, slow, like a full-grown man dragging himself across the metal. The weight dented the frame, the roof groaning as it buckled. I ducked instinctively, heart pounding, but I didn't stop driving. The radio crackled again. Not children this time, chanting. Low, guttural voices speaking words I didn't understand. My skin crawled. every syllable vibrating through my bones. Up ahead, the trees opened into a clearing, and there, in the middle of the road, stood the candles again. Dozens of them, flames flickering in a perfect circle. Figures stood between them, cloaked in black, faces hidden, hands raised to the sky. I slowed, not by choice, but because the car did it for me. My foot pressed the gas, but the engine resisted, dragging me forward inch by inch. One of the figures turned toward me. Slowly, deliberately, the hood slipped back. His face wasn't human. Eyes burned like coals, skin stretched too tight, mouth split with rows of jagged teeth. It raised a hand, and the chanting stopped. The forest fell silent. Then, from the radio, my own voice whispered, "Welcome home." The car crawled forward as if someone else held the wheel. My foot pressed the gas, but the engine moved at its own pace, dragging me closer to the circle of candles. The cloaked figures didn't move, didn't flinch. They just stood there, waiting, their shadows stretching long and sharp across the pavement. I wanted to stop. I wanted to throw the door open and run into the woods, but every part of me screamed that the forest wasn't safer. I remembered those pale creatures with crawling skin, the way the trees seemed to lean in, alive. The road had me. Clinton Road wasn't giving me choices. The chanting started again. Low, guttural, vibrating the windows until they rattled. My chest tightened with every word, like invisible hands were squeezing the air from my lungs. The hooded figure who had turned toward me raised both arms, palms open to the sky, and the chanting grew louder. The flames bent inward, pulled toward the center of the circle, as if some unseen force was sucking all the air out of the world. Then the candles went out at once, plunging the road into black. My headlights flickered, and for a second I saw everything clearly. The cloaked figures weren't people. Their robes hung empty, black cloth draped over nothing. But inside each hood glowed two red eyes, floating in darkness. The radio shrieked. Not voices this time, screams. Dozens of them. Children, women, men. A wall of sound that made my ears ring. Then the car shut off. Dead. The lights, the engine, everything, all gone. I was left sitting in the middle of Clinton Road with nothing but black woods pressing against the glass. The chanting stopped. Silence heavier than any sound. And then something knocked on the window. A slow, deliberate tap, tap, tap right by my ear. My blood iced. I turned my head, barely able to move, and saw a hand. Small, pale. A child's hand pressed flat against the glass. Mud streaked the window, tiny fingers dragging down. Another hand joined it. Then another. Soon dozens of them. Children's faces peered in from the dark, eyes glowing faintly, smiles too wide. Their laughter bubbled faintly through the glass, muffled but rising. I slammed the ignition, twisting the key until my wrist ached. Nothing. The Chevy was dead. The radio flickered back on. "Let him out," a child's voice whispered. The doors clicked. One by one, the locks popped open. "No," I breathed. "No, no, no." The rear door creaked. Cold air rushed in. I turned in time to see a pale face pushing inside, eyes burning yellow. His grin stretched ear to ear. I threw my shoulder into the front door and stumbled into the night. The forest air hit like ice, damp and heavy. I didn't think, I just ran. Branches whipped my arms, tore at my shirt. Roots caught my boots, tripping me, but I pushed forward blindly. Behind me, the laughter followed. High-pitched, endless. It came from every direction at once, bouncing off the trees like the woods themselves were mocking me. I burst into another clearing and froze. It was the same one, the circle of candles, the robed figures, the tall one at the center, arms outstretched. I spun, ready to dive back into the woods, but the trees had closed. No paths, no gaps. Just solid walls of black trunks hemming me in. The figure lowered its arms. Slowly, deliberately, it pointed at me. The ground shook. Cracks split the asphalt. Jagged lines glowing red as if fire lived just beneath the surface. From the cracks, smoke curled upward, carrying a smell like burned flesh. The robed figures turned their heads toward me in unison. The chanting started again, faster now, harsher. I dropped to my knees, clutching my ears, but the sound wasn't in the air anymore. It was in my skull, burrowing deeper with every syllable. My vision swam, colors bleeding into each other. The world twisting until I didn't know if I was standing on the road or floating above it. The leader stepped closer. His hood fell back. The face underneath wasn't human. It wasn't even a face. It was shifting, rippling, as if dozens of people's features were fighting for the surface. Eyes appearing and disappearing, mouth screaming silently, skin melting into new shapes every second. It raised one hand, and in the fire glow of the cracks, I saw symbols burned into its palm. Circles, crosses, jagged runes I didn't understand. My name appeared among them. Ethan. The voices in my head screamed it in unison. The ground split wider, and something began to rise. Not a person, not an animal, something ancient. Too many limbs, wings that folded wrong, eyes that blinked across its body. The air itself bent around it, twisting like heat off asphalt. I couldn't move. My body shook, my breath caught in my throat, but I stayed kneeling, paralyzed as the thing emerged. And then, just as it towered over me, the radio whispered again. My own voice. You shouldn't have come here. The thing rising from the cracks should not have existed. Its body shifted like smoke and flesh tangled together, its many eyes blinking in random patterns, each one locking on me before disappearing again. Every instinct I had screamed to run, but my legs refused to listen. I was caught between terror and the pull of something stronger, like the road itself wanted me to witness what was happening. The chanting stopped. The silence that followed was worse. The hooded figures bowed their heads, as if waiting for a signal. Then the creature spoke, not with a mouth, but with all its eyes at once. A low vibration hummed through the air, through my bones, through the cracks in the road. The words weren't English, not anything human, but somehow I understood. You are marked. The name burned hotter on the leader's palm. Ethan. The skin sizzled like iron pressed to flesh, filling the air with the stench of smoke. That broke whatever spell held me. My body lurched to life and I bolted. I didn't think about where, just away. Away from the creature, the chanting, the glowing fissures in the asphalt. My boots hit dirt, and the woods swallowed me. Branches snapped against my arms, my breath tearing at my throat. Behind me, the laughter of children and the guttural chants blended into one sound. A wave of noise chasing me deeper into the trees. But the farther I ran, the stranger the forest became. The trees grew taller, their trunks twisting into spirals, their roots crawling across the ground like snakes. My headlights were long gone with the car, but faint lights flickered between the trees. Lanterns maybe, or fireflies too large, too bright. I stumbled into another clearing, gasping for air, and froze. It was the bridge again. The same broken guardrail, the same creek rushing below. No, I whispered. No, this isn't possible. But it was. The coin I had tossed earlier lay in the dirt at my feet, shining as if freshly minted. I bent down, almost without thinking, and picked it up. It was warm, too warm. The footsteps started again. Tiny, fast, circling me. The laughter returned, sharp and mocking. Small hands tugged at my jacket, my sleeves, pulling me in different directions. My chest heaved as I swatted at the air, but the hands were too quick, too many. A boy's voice whispered right at my ear. "You can't leave us now." I spun, but no one was there. Just the creak, the broken rail, the shadows shifting like they were alive. I threw the coin as far as I could into the water. The splash echoed unnaturally long, stretching into a deep, hollow boom that shook the ground. The laughter stopped. For a heartbeat, silence. Then the road shifted beneath me. Asphalt rippled like water, and I was no longer by the creek. I was standing in the middle of the diner parking lot. Neon lights buzzed overhead. Half the sign burnt out so it read only DIN. The building looked abandoned, windows dark, doors hanging crooked. But inside I saw movement. Figures sitting at booths, unmoving, heads bowed like they were waiting for something. The door creaked open on its own. My feet betrayed me. Step by step, I crossed the lot, the coin's warmth still burning my palm though I'd thrown it away. Inside, the smell hit me first. Stale grease, wet wood, something sour underneath. The booths were filled, every seat occupied by shadowy figures. Their faces were blurred, smeared like wet paint, but every one of them turned toward me as I entered. At the far booth sat the boy, the same one from the bridge. His skin pale, his grin sharp. He waved me over like an old friend. "Sit," he said. His voice was wrong, too deep for a child, echoing in the walls. I didn't sit. I backed toward the door, but it slammed shut, the bell above it ringing endlessly though no one touched it. The boy leaned forward, his eyes glowing. "You're already part of the road." The figures in the booths began to rise. Slowly, stiffly, like puppets pulled by invisible strings. Their smiles stretched wider, their hands reaching for me. I pounded on the door, the wood splintering under my fists, but it wouldn't give. The boy's voice grew louder, layered now, as if dozens of people spoke through him at once. "You can run, you can scream, but you'll always end up here." The windows shattered at once, glass spraying inward. Pale hands reached through the frames, clawing, grasping. I dropped to the floor, covering my head, as the diner filled with laughter. High, shrill, endless. And then, just as quickly, it all stopped. The hands were gone. The booths were empty. The boy vanished. I was alone in silence, but the neon sign still buzzed. And when I looked up, the letters had changed. "Welcome, Ethan." The diner was empty, but the buzzing neon still lit the room in sickly red. I stared at the flickering sign, "Welcome, Ethan," until my throat went dry. The booths were abandoned, the windows cracked, but I knew if I blinked too long, the figures would come back. They were never gone. They were just waiting. I forced myself up, legs weak, and shoved against the door. This time it opened easily, swinging outward into the night. The parking lot was the same as before, the forest pressed close, the road vanishing into black. But something was different. The air. It felt heavier, like the trees themselves were leaning in, listening. I stepped outside. My car was gone. The lot was empty except for me. For the first time since I turned onto Clinton Road, I felt the weight of being stranded. No engine to protect me, no headlights to cut the dark. Just the woods and me. A branch cracked. I spun, scanning the tree line. Nothing but shadows. Then another crack closer. My chest tightened as my eyes darted through the dark. That's when I saw them. Eyes, dozens of them, burning faint red, blinking in pairs, scattered between the trunks. They hovered low to the ground, then rose higher, shifting. My stomach turned as I realized they weren't all at the same height. Some were crawling, some were climbing, some were towering above me, too tall for anything human. The creatures stepped out of the trees. At first, I thought they were people, thin, gray figures, their bodies bent at strange angles. But as they moved closer, their skin writhed. Shapes crawled beneath it like insects trapped under a sheet of flesh. Their mouths gaped open, but no sound came out. Only silence. I backed toward the diner, heart slamming, but the door was gone. Where it had been was now just solid wall, brick, and peeling paint. No way back inside. The nearest creature tilted its head. Its jaw cracked, splitting wider, and a sound poured out. Not from its mouth, but from everywhere at once. The chanting, the same guttural voices from the ritual circle. Another stepped closer, its limbs bending backward, its fingers too long. Then another. Soon they were all moving, slow but steady, circling me in the lot. "Stay away," I whispered, though I knew words meant nothing here. The radio hissed. I froze. There was no car, no speakers, but the static still filled the air, wrapping around me like smoke. Through it, the boy's voice whispered, "Don't run this time. Watch." The creatures stopped. Their red eyes blinked once, twice, in unison. Then they parted, leaving a path into the woods. Something bigger moved there. Branches cracked, trees shuddered, and from the shadows, it crawled into view. Taller than the rest, hunched low, its arms dragging the ground. The skin was raw, blistered, torn in patches. Its head bent sideways, neck twisted too far, eyes burning brighter than the others. The woods fell silent. Even the smaller creatures backed away as it approached. It stopped at the edge of the lot, staring at me. Its jaw opened with a wet snap, and inside I saw not teeth but faces. Dozens of them, human faces pressed together, screaming silently from its throat. My knees nearly buckled. The boy's voice whispered again, right in my ear this time, "This is what the road feeds." The giant creature raised its hand. Not a claw, not a fist, something in between. On the palm, carved deep, was the same word I'd seen on the boy's hand, but different now. Belong. The chanting surged, filling my skull, shaking the ground beneath me. The creatures closed in, not touching but pushing me toward the bigger one. I turned to run, but every path closed. Trees shifted, trunks bending, branches tangling into walls. There was nowhere to go. The thing stepped closer, its faces writhing in its throat, its eyes locked on me. My chest tightened, my breath shallow. I thought of the bridge, the coin, the diner. Every turn I'd taken led here. "Why me?" I whispered. The boy's laugh answered, "Because you came." The creature bent down until its burning eyes filled my vision. Its breath reeked of rot and soil. One of the faces in its throat pressed against the flesh, stretching outward, and for a moment, I thought I recognized it. My own. Then the ground split beneath me. I fell plunging into black. For a heartbeat, I thought it was death. The fall seemed endless, the air rushing past my ears. But then I landed hard on asphalt. The impact knocked the wind from me, but I was alive. I sat up, gasping, and froze. I was back in my car. The headlights were on. The engine idled. The clock on the dash read 12 o'clock. And through the windshield, I saw the bridge waiting. The car idled quietly, like it had never died. The dash lights glowed steady, the gas tank full, the engine purring as if none of it had happened. My fingers clutched the wheel so tight my knuckles ached, but I couldn't bring myself to shift into gear. Through the windshield, the bridge waited. It looked the same as the first time. The broken guardrail, the narrow creek below, the dark woods pressing in on either side. For a moment, I thought maybe I'd imagined everything. The diner, the creatures, the boy. Maybe I had blacked out and dreamed the whole thing. Then I glanced at the hood. A small, muddy handprint smeared across the metal. Fresh. I started shaking. "No," I whispered. "Not again." But the road doesn't care about what you want. My foot pressed the gas before I even realized, and the Chevy rolled forward. Onto the bridge. The same splash echoed from the creek. The same coin bounced onto the hood. This time I didn't touch it. I kept driving, eyes locked ahead. But the footsteps came anyway. Tiny feet running across the roof. Laughter spilling through the speakers. The wet slap of small hands pressing against the windshield. The same routine, only worse, louder, faster, closer. "Stop!" I yelled, slamming the dash. The laughter cut out instantly. Silence fell, heavy and sharp. That's when I heard breathing. Not from the speakers, from the back seat. Slow, ragged wheezing, like someone struggling to draw in air. My skin crawled as I glanced in the rearview mirror. First, nothing, just shadows. Then movement. A child sat in the back seat. Mud dripping from his hair, his eyes glowing faint yellow. He grinned at me in the mirror, showing sharp teeth too big for his mouth. "Drive," he whispered. I froze. My chest burned with every shallow breath. "Drive," he said again, louder this time. His voice wasn't just his. It was layered. Dozens of voices, men, women, children, all speaking through him at once. My foot pressed down. The car shot forward, leaving the bridge behind. The boy leaned closer, his face almost touching the glass of the mirror. His breath fogged it up, and words appeared in the mist. "You never leave." I spun around. The back seat was empty. The radio hissed. The boy's laughter returned, echoing around me. I gritted my teeth, gripping the wheel so hard my hands hurt. If this road wants me, it's gonna have to take me fighting. I floored it. The Chevy roared, the speedometer climbing. 80, 90, 100. The road blurred, trees flashing past like shadows. I thought maybe, just maybe, if I pushed hard enough, I could break whatever loop held me. But the road had other plans. The forest opened into a clearing, and there, dead ahead, was the diner. Again, the neon sign buzzed, but the letters had changed once more. "Belong." I slammed the brakes, tires screaming, but it didn't matter. The car coasted into the lot, stopping dead in front of the doors. The radio whispered, soft and calm, "Get out." I shook my head, jaw clenched. "No." The locks clicked. The doors swung open on their own. The engine shut off. One by one, the figures filled the booths inside. Shadowy people with smeared faces. Their heads turned toward me, waiting. The boy appeared in the doorway. Same pale skin, same glowing eyes. His grin stretched impossibly wide as he tilted his head. "You're almost ready," he said. "I'm not staying here." He chuckled, the sound far too deep for a child. "You already are." The air thickened, pressing against my chest. The asphalt beneath the car rippled, glowing red through the cracks. The boy stepped closer, his reflection flickering in the windshield. "This road eats everyone," he said. "Some scream, some fight, but all of them end up the same. A shadow, a face, a name." I swallowed hard, forcing words through my dry throat. "Not me." He tilted his head, amused. "Then why are you still here?" The diner lights flared, blinding. When they dimmed, I wasn't in the lot anymore. I was back on the bridge. The coin lay on the hood. The creek whispered below. My hands shook as I picked up the coin, holding it tight. The boys' laughter swirled all around me, dozens of voices rising in a chorus. The headlights flickered. My reflection in the glass wasn't mine anymore. It was his. The boy, smiling. I stared at the windshield, my reflection grinning back at me with the boy's sharp teeth and glowing eyes. My chest tightened, every part of me screaming to look away, but I couldn't. The reflection tilted its head, mocking me, though I hadn't moved at all. "Almost done," the voice whispered, though I couldn't tell if it came from the radio, the boy, or from inside my own head. The coin burned in my hand. I glanced down, and the number 7 was carved into its surface. Fresh, wet, blood instead of ink. My stomach dropped. I hadn't noticed before, but every time I'd been looped back to the bridge, the coin was different. I remembered the faint marks, the scratches. Each time, the number had climbed. 7. How many times had I done this? How many loops before the road decided it was enough? The laughter started again, faint at first, then louder. Children, men, women, all of them, overlapping, echoing. The sound pressed against me until it felt like my head might split. I threw the coin out the window. It vanished into the creek with a hiss. For one blessed second, silence. Then the boy's face appeared in the passenger seat. He sat calmly, dripping wet, mud streaking his skin. His grin was smaller now, almost gentle. He leaned forward, resting his chin on his hand like a friend sharing a secret. "You can fight forever," he said softly, "but every road ends somewhere." I gripped the wheel, my voice shaking. "And if I don't stop?" He chuckled. "Then you'll just drive, and drive, and drive, until you forget you ever had a name." The headlights flickered. The forest shifted. Suddenly, I wasn't on the bridge anymore. The car rolled into the diner lot again, smooth as a dream. The neon sign buzzed. This time it read, "Ethan." Inside, the booths were full. Dozens of figures sat, waiting, their heads turning in unison as my car pulled in. The boy stepped out of the passenger side without opening the door. He drifted across the lot, his feet leaving no prints. "Come on," he called, waving me toward the diner. "I'm not going in." He smiled sadly. "You already did." I blinked, and I was inside. The booths stretched endless, the figures clearer now. Their faces weren't blurred anymore. I recognized some of them. The faces from the creature's throat, the reflections in the phantom headlights. Travelers, people who had taken Clinton Road before me. They all smiled. The boy slid into the booth across from me, folding his small hands neatly. "The road needs names, needs faces. It's always hungry." "I'm not staying," I said, though my voice broke halfway. He tilted his head. "Look around." I did, and froze. One of the figures sitting in the nearest booth was me. My face, my clothes, my posture. He smiled at me with dead eyes, then turned back to the table as if I wasn't even there. My throat went dry. "No!" The boy leaned in, his grin sharp again. "It's already written." The guest book lay open on the table. The pages flipped on their own until they landed on my name, Ethan Calloway. But now there were 2 entries. My name, written twice, stacked on top of each other like the road had stamped me into its ledger. The walls shook. The laughter rose again, deafening, shaking the glass in the windows. The figures in the booths all turned toward me, their smiles stretching wide, too wide. The boy slid the book across the table. "Say it," he whispered. "I won't," I said, teeth clenched. His eyes glowed brighter, his voice twisting into dozens of layers. "Then the road will say it for you." The neon light burst, showering sparks. The floor split into cracks, glowing red. Smoke curled upward, swallowing the booths, the figures, the boy. I screamed, but the sound was lost in the roar of engines. Phantom headlights blazed through the windows, hundreds of them, filling the diner with blinding white. And then silence. When my eyes opened, I was standing on the side of Clinton Road. The night was calm, the woods quiet. A car approached, its headlights cutting through the dark. Without thinking, I raised my hand. Thumb out. The driver slowed, the window rolling down. A man leaned out, eyes tired but kind. Need a ride? I smiled.